oh, it's anybody's game, because no, we have a clear favorite, and it's okay to say we have a clear favorite. But yesterday we also had a crazy upset. Maybe today can be even crazier. Let's get it on with the semifinals of the upper bracket. In the top right side, we're looking at the main base of the man who is a favorite for the entire region and to represent Latin America at the season finals. It is SpeCial.
And his opponent in the southwest position that's a gorilla smoking something. He is the blue Zerg player. He's JimRising.
I think that Jim in the past has described his own playstyle like a monkey. And he says he just does monkey things, and then every now and then he ends up winning. And yesterday he truly brought out the big brain gaming strategies. I don't think I've ever seen well, first game it kind of made sense. He just went for a roach +1 attack, and I think that Cham was a bit too greedy, got punished. The second game made it look like it was the same thing, but instead it was 2 base Muda, but not before we made 40 Zerglings of +1. It's all kind of crazy, it's all a bit bizarre, but it worked out brilliantly. And you know what, I can totally understand that he went for a little glory stream, analyze everything like it was all part of the big plan, and in a way it was. Well, yeah, the fact that it worked out the way it did, obviously a great moment for him. I'm sure he's very happy. Has already guaranteed himself $1,400 in this region. Obviously, if you win here, you guarantee yourself $2,000, so it gets really serious. Well, we all know it's going to be tough, especially on this map. Nate, are you surprised we're going to kick things off on Beckett?
At least from the Terran perspective, it's very hard for me to see this as a bad map. Like this is, I don't know what like the general thoughts are. I know that this gets vetoed a lot for some of the other matchups, but those choke points are really nice to have. You have a high ground in that main that, if you were being pushed back, being attacked by roaches or something, like you got a little bit of room to work with. But that rush distance is something that's worth keeping in mind. And I think we've already seen that roach horn go down crazy early. Nary a drone mining in the natural expansion for JimRising. Like you're just looking. I don't know. I guess he's gonna run Ravagers across it. How do you get the Reaper?
First blood by JimRising as he preps the Reaper. Unbelievable. And this is actually kind of bad for SpeCial, because now SpeCial has absolutely no way to scout this roach horn that's going off in the back of the main base. Nate, it's happening. Buckle up.
That's terrifying. JimRising is. I've been following some of his escapades, but he's not going to get a 400 mineral bonus for that first blood, Kev. He still needs to make the most of this situation. There's no extra money or gold here. The roaches are coming out. That has SpeCial realized that something funky is going to be going down.
Oh, the Marine is trapped on the wrong side of the wall. What the hell is happening, Nate? JimRising is on fire. And SpeCial, he's feeling it, man. He's falling apart in front of our eyes.
These 4 lings are absolutely cracked out of their minds. And now they are going to be air fried. Yeah, probably an apt way to describe it. There you go. Maybe a little more painful than that. I don't know.
Oh my god, SpeCial's following this up with a Widowmine. That's really not that good against the roaches. Now the Hellions will give the heads up that 7 roaches are heading his way. I believe it is, yes, exactly 7. I don't think we're going to be able to gun down that Widowmine, so I would say let that mine just fire. Or no, he's going to morph roaches into Ravages. I mean, JimRising doesn't plan on killing SpeCial here, but he obviously wants to do a lot of damage.
Yeah, and I think that's also possible. Like, even if just one of the roaches had soaked that mine, he could have then tried to transform that one, right, to get the health back. So there's a couple of moves here that are available for him, but the medevac coming out is going to make these Marines a little bit harder to deal with. So he gets this pressure on the natural. You'd say, sure, nice, but there's no third hatch up for JimRising just yet. He's just now beginning it. So, okay, it seems like he's making some of the right moves, given what he's been able to do. I don't think he can break this ramp, really. He could try to trade, but I don't know if he'd rather just take these home so he doesn't have to spend larva on more fighting units, you know what I mean?
There is an Overlord that was taking a sneak peek into the main base of SpeCial, and it saw the medevac pick up a few units and leave. Now SpeCial also feels confident enough that he can retake his natural. I don't think that Jim should really take a lot of damage from these Marines. He's going to end up losing an Overlord, and that does kind of suck. This is going to supply block him for a little while. Yeah, I don't know if I like it that much anymore. It was very exciting at first, but I kind of feel whenever Zerg makes such a massive investment in the early game, you need a little more than some moss mining time.
Yeah, now losing the overlords here too is also going to hurt because the supply is a little bit more strained, right? By the amount of roaches and ravagers that he's made. It's not like just having a couple of lings that aren't going to affect your overlord production at all. He needs a little bit more supply available.
Oh.
Medevac takes a lot of heat from these queens though. Is going to be able to make it out with 30 hit points. Yep. So live to fight another day. And SpeCial, I don't mind this at all, right? Just get some banshees, get some cloak. Especially with the roach opening from JimRising, I don't think it's ever bad to have a banshee against roaches, especially if you bring him home later. He's just finding all the overlords too. Look at this little hit squad.
Yep, that's the third overlord that has already gone down, and there was no spore crawler in position yet, but seems like JimRising has moved the spore. He had on the edge of creep over. At least he's going to be able to keep his drone safe, but SpeCial is going to find another overlord, so that makes it 4 overlord kills 6 minutes into the game without a pulled Viking. That's quite impressive.
Yeah, I was gonna say, usually you have to get the Viking out in order to find those, but just having this early medevac full of Marines flying all over the place has been a lot. It's done a lot more than I expected, because as soon as the Queens pushed it away, I thought it honestly might have died there.
There's another overlord in the main base. We're gonna make it 5 overlord kills. 6 minutes and 20 seconds into the game, 5 overlords.
Yeah, that's bad.
And he finds another one with the base. Mate, these Marines are working overtime. Look at that medevac. He's just boosting around the map, picking up every single overlord.
Theaters this summer, 1 medevac and 8 Marines challenge every overlord's reality. Yeah, no, that's painful.
Quite comical. I don't think I've seen this yet. This is 6
Guys, you can't let your overlords go into the neighbor's airspace. Come on, keep them inside, okay? Get a fence. If the overlords fly across the yard like that, they're gonna get picked off. You got to be careful.
So now we got to get serious again, and we obviously have to address the fact that this is not a great Zerg map. Eventually, there are so many great spots for Terran to take an awesome fight against the Zerg. It's going to be very hard for JimRising to get a lot of great engagements. He still needs to worry about these 2 Banshees too that have Cloak. Even if Cloak expired and we have some Spore Trawlers, I mean, 2 Banshees is not something you deal with just a single Queen. I feel like there was a lot of excitement in the first 3 minutes, but I'm starting to be a little more concerned about this game for JimRising.
Yeah, he's already moving into like this power-up phase of the army, right? With the Ravagers, the Lings getting the Banes and the speed, but he's starting to invest into that army. He's waiting for the attack to come from SpeCial. He's prepared for it to basically already be on the way is what it looks like, because he's building all of it now. And if his plan is to attack with this, then I get real nervous, because those Banshees have completely gutted the creep spread. There's not really much creep at all outside of JimRising's base, and the only creep he is spreading right now is just connecting these 2. It's not really giving him a whole lot else to work with, so he's been chasing these Banshees, running all over the place with them, and now that Marine tank army is coming up. And Kev, like I said, this map's a Terran dream. You've got all these cliffs and ramps and tight choke points. Siege the tanks in the pocket under here, let the Marines run up top. Tank is super safe to blast away at those Banelings.
And Jim has just no idea where this Terran army is, man. Take a look at the main base of JimRising. He left so many units behind. He's so worried about a big drop showing up in the main base, but all the units of SpeCial are on the top side, and that means that SpeCial can just get a lovely fight going here. As you said, the tanks are in a great position. A couple of Queens are going down immediately. We do have plenty of Lings and Banes, but this is just never going to be a good fight for JimRising.
No, and he does still have enough medevacs to lift some of these bio up if he has to. Well, actually, really good Bane detonation. He tried to get into the second medevac, but that actually caused the Marines to run towards it and thus into the Banelings. A bit tragic, but the Banshees show up because those few Marines that were there did actually take down the Spore Crawler. We have to remember, the army doesn't have any anti-air. He's been relying purely on the Queens to be the defense. And you know what, Kevin? More Overlords are dying.
No, more Overlords are dying, and JimRising also grabbed 20 Zerglings to go to the other side of the map, potentially counterattack. But SpeCial had way more Marines than JimRising had Zerglings, and even though this game started off somewhat promising, it's actually going out like a candle in the night, Nate, because this Terran army is not gonna get stopped. JimRising knows it. GG will be called. And Juanito takes a convincing 1-0 lead after killing 6 Overlords in the first 6 minutes of the game.
Yeah, very well done. Can't say a whole lot more than that. I mean, SpeCial, the attack didn't do the damage that it needed to do. And then, I mean, losing 5 Overlords it's just huge. That's 5 larva extra that you're going to have to spend. That's 500 extra minerals. And that's only to get back to where you were knocked down from, obviously, right? Because you still need more overlords to make a bigger army. So it ends up having a huge cascading effect on the economy and setup of the Zerg players. So that's just one of those things that's always going to be difficult to deal with as we get into the lobby for game 2, which will be on Romanticide.
Let's go back to the beginning of the game. You said you would have liked to see him just sacrifice a single roach to that Withermine, and I'm with you, because at that point, SpeCial didn't have a great setup to fight 6 roaches. I would have loved to see him just run a roach forward. It would have been really sexy if maybe like he would send the roach in range of the Withermine and then morph it into a Ravager or something, but Jim tried to go for the very clean way dealing with it. He morphed a couple of roaches into Ravagers. He's like, oh, I'm gonna drop Corrosive Ball on the Withermine, but then obviously SpeCial is gonna unburrow the mine, he's going to move it, and it just took a little while. Then all the units safely get to the high ground, and you can't really run your roaches in there because you have no high ground vision and you don't know what's waiting for you there. But if he would have just ran into that mine immediately, it would have been 6 roaches against 4 or 5 marines and a Hellion. At that point, there's not much that SpeCial can do, and then maybe he could have actually grabbed 1 or 2 of the depots at the ramp, maybe a few SCVs. It's a big investment, 7 roaches of a 2-base Zerg. You want to get something out of it rather than just some lost mining time of the orbital.
Yeah, and like I said, if you were going to keep the units alive, it would be so that you could build drones and still have something to defend, like, you know, that medevac drop with or something like that. But he put out even more units after that point, and
yeah,
that's why I was saying, like, the roach actually doesn't get one shot by the mine unless it's missing 20 hit points. So if he can just pull that shot back with him and then turn that into a Ravager and then move the rest of the army up, I think if you can get the Terran to pull SCVs against that and you can get like 6 or 7, then you're really in the dream scenario, because he didn't have like, he wasn't doing like a Maru 3cc kind of build either. Losing workers there would have hurt.
Technically, going up against the Hellion into a mine is the best thing he could have gone up against, right? No Cyclone, no tank. It was just a couple of Marines that didn't have Stim or any other upgrades. I feel like there was some value to gain in the early game. Unfortunately, Jim couldn't find it. And that means that this man has taken the 1-0 lead, to the surprise of, I guess, not too many people in the chat. He's our Mexican Terran player currently living in Korea. It is SpeCial.
And his opponent in the southeast position as our blue Zerg player, he is JimRising.
I just want to know what Jim has in store for us. I'm sure that he's got a few more very special builds up his sleeve. Give us some fireworks, maybe a cheeky Nidus or something, Nate. Make it look like we're playing macro, but then we Nidus the main, because we do need to do something wild here. I think that first game already showed that if we're just going to play a standard game, especially his mechanics and his execution, it's too fast, it's too clean. We're not going to be able to keep up, so we need to win on strategy.
Oh, for sure. For sure in this situation. I mean, at this point, I'm digging into like the old dark archives that you have to get permission from the teacher to look at, of like Bly's old builds, like 2014. Just find something that doesn't make any sense and just unleash it. I don't know. The was the 3-player map, go for the 1-base Muta Rush. I have honestly no idea. Yeah, Merry-Go-Round was one. The other one I'm obsessed with, but I constantly forget the name. Catalina, yeah. Yeah. I love that map.
Yeah, I remember Catalina too. I already shared this story last season, but I played against Cats once and he did a 1-base Muta opening against me on Catalina. And I will never forget that, because 3 Mutalisks flew into my base and I'm like, what is this? 3 Mutas? Like, I'm not good in dealing with Mutas if I don't have Phoenix. But 3 Mutalisk Cats? Come on. Even Roddy can deal with this.
3 Mutas at 3 minutes. Checkmate.
Like you have a mothership core, you overcharge your pile, and the Mutas die. You're like,
Oh man, I repress that, man. Some of us have forgotten about mothership cores. You're bringing up some dark memories there.
Well, what I always thought was really funny is, right, how people complain that it was too easy for Protoss to deal with drops because of the mothership core. I'll guarantee you life is easier with shield batteries than it was with a mothership core. Because with mothership cores, they always moved out of position when you pressed F2. So then the mothership core was somewhere in the corner of the map. But the batteries, you don't even need to look at them. They just sit there, heal up your units. Life honestly got better as a Protoss when they removed the mothership core.
I'll be honest with you, man. I actually prefer shield batteries still over. I don't really have any problems with shield batteries. I don't mind them at all. But
yeah, that's because you don't play bio. Tell the bio Terran players, mate.
Perhaps that is the problem. But I'd also say there was really nothing more frustrating than when someone just built 4 pylons next to your barracks while it was building at the start of the game. Yep. That was a real ace move.
Well, SpeCial does find some damage with his Reapers here, as JimRising has been producing a lot of Zerglings, and the Baneling Nest is also going up in the main base. He's already down 5 workers, which gives us the feeling that he's pretty damn serious about this potential Baneling boss. And we grab a Reaper. We might grab the second Reaper. Yes, we do. Do you think that SpeCial is aware of the fact that he's about to get Baneling busted?
Absolutely not. He has nothing to deal with this. He's still building just the 2 Marines out of this. The way that this build is done, of course, he doesn't have a whole lot of other options. But if he knew this was coming, I think he would still get a depot, or maybe start something in front of the depot that is in his wall. Because having a 2 barracks wall is awesome, but there's still a weak point in it.
Yep, and let's not forget that he doesn't have a wall off on the ramp, right? It's not like he's got that second coverage where he could still raise the depots on the high ground. This could very well work. I mean, it's 28 supply on the side of JimRising. The 2 Hellions are going to be the most problematic thing. The Banelings will come in, and the micro on these Hellions has to be absolutely perfect, and it's not. The Hellions may get surrounded here. Is it happening, Nathanius?
Looks like JimRising might get a map here, Kev. He's got a lot going for him. Got all the Hellions about. There's just 1 being made, by the way. He's not actually building 2 Hellions at a time with that reactor. And now it's just SCVs and a medevac versus Zerglings. And a Hellion does pop on its own. But there's still a few Banelings there. Could get up close with these. Oh, he didn't even rebuild the wall during that.
Yeah, he did, but it got broken down. He already rebuilt the depot, but JimRising had enough Zerglings there to take it out, so a few more SCVs are gonna fall. I mean, this is good, but I still think he needs a little bit more than what he got so far. If we can get the final Hellions, I don't know, man. Like an 8 worker lead is nice, but it's 2 bays against 2 bays, and now it's double Orbitor and Hellions. If you surround these Hellions, though, Nate, then the dream is alive.
I think in this situation, you have to end the game almost as the Zerg. You pretty much have to kill the Terran here, because it's exactly what you said. It's a 2-base Zerg that doesn't really have drones on the natural. No, though. A Terran that will rebuild very quickly if given the opportunity. So these Lings are still doing a really good job. But you might need to get him down to 0 SCVs and then some if he wants to actually get the game over.
We are getting him down to 0 SCVs. My goodness.
There it is. There you go.
JimRising is literally on fire, guys, as he Baneling boss SpeCial here in game 2. SpeCial saw it and he did try to rewall, but the depot just didn't have enough HP, and all the reinforcing links were able to break it down again. I mean, it's pretty sick. Pretty sick, Nick.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, we can dive into a little bit more in a sec. We're going to take a quick break, guys, and then we'll get into game number 3. It's tied 1 apiece here between SpeCial and JimRising. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the DreamHack Masters Summer StarCraft 2. I'm Nathanius, joined by Rotterdam. But you know what, Kev? I love it when I get to see a smile on somebody's face. And 1.4 million channel points were just redistributed over that Daemling bust. And I think that's
Really?
I think that it's just a miracle. Yes, yeah, 1.4 million. And this is what happens when people constantly try to naked short. They endlessly short these poor Zerg players that are doing their best, and finally somebody slaps them for it. So I just huge shout out to our Zerg player here, as he's helped to even the odds between those with the points and those without.
Beautiful, Nate. All right, and that means that we're getting ready for game 3. In the bottom left side, we're looking at the main base with the man who's obviously still the favorite. I'm sure he's a little pissed off about losing that previous game. It is SpeCial.
And his opponent in the southeast position, grabbing that Bane bust win. He is the blue Zerg player. He is JimRising.
You want to know some fun facts, Nathanius?
Hit me.
So, before this best of 5 started, we already went over the series, but map-wise it was 55-6 in favor of SpeCial, which kind of goes to show how rare it is for JimRising to win a map against SpeCial. You know what's even funnier is that the very first time they played against each other was in 2011, but the first time that JimRising ever took a map off SpeCial, it was in 2016, and at that point SpeCial had a 27-0 lead over JimRising in maps. So those maps, they ain't easy to get by.
No, that sounds absolutely insane, actually. That also just speaks volumes about how long SpeCial has been a high-level competitor here. Because, you know, when people talk about like how leagues and ranks and MMR works, I mean, your number is only supposed to really go up if you're improving faster than other people, right? So all the people that were really talented, that had the ability early on, you know, they were the kind of the people that built the scene. But some of these guys they were still playing for a really long time. You know, they just took them a little bit longer to reach that point where they were able to compete with them. And hey, you know, even if it's hard to beat guys like SpeCial in this region, you're still getting top 4 prize pool, right? If you're able to make it to that point, even if you lose to them. So at the end of the day, it's still worth it to put that effort in and try to reach those heights. But yeah, as even of a footing, I guess, as we could be in this series, considering, you know, getting to 1-1, can't feel bad about that.
Nope, I think there were a couple of pretty good players that didn't even make it into the main event. So the fact that JimRising has now made top 4 and already guaranteed himself $1,400 is probably a little more than he expected, especially with all the random he's been playing over the last few months and all the focus on streaming, commentating, and going to the gym, like I said a couple of times. Turns out the more you go to the gym, the more powerful you become. The zest and showtime his level all of a sudden makes so much sense to me.
Oh yeah, it's all about the gains, Kev. It's all about them gains.
No wonder I can't win a game anymore.
I was gonna say, last I checked, SpeCial is on the gains train as well. So he's been looking good recently, and he's been looking good in these games too. I love watching SpeCial play because he's also one of those guys that mixes up the strategies a lot. You don't usually see him tunnel vision on doing one thing over and over again, unless it's like, you know, an early stage of a maybe like a you know, an offline event, right, where he's trying to hide something for, you know, the final day sort of deal. But that's what I've always felt one of the fun things about watching SpeCial's games.
I think SpeCial is pretty confused about what the hell is going on, because JimRising stayed on 2 hatcheries a little bit longer than you expect a Zerg to stay on 2 hatcheries, but he was just cranking out as many drones as possible off those 2 bases, and when the Reaper went for a little detour around the map checking for a hidden base or something else that wouldn't make any sense, that's when JimRising sent out the drone to go up to 3 bases. SpeCial hasn't seen that yet. I bet that Juanito is a little bit confused about what the hell JimRising is doing. Now you see Zergling speed is done, you spot an extra extractor, but he did see a lot of drones in the natural, and that's already a decent scout.
Yeah, there's that Viking we were talking about. I think it would be, I feel like it would be a mistake to not build the Viking after you got 5 Overlords in that first game. Even if we weren't able to see something like that happen in game number 2, you definitely should be out on the map hunting. There are a few Overlords He did not get the one that was by his base. This one is, I think, the easiest to protect. Queens are right here.
SpeCial is having a very similar approach to what Clem had, I think, when he played against Bly in one of our previous playdays here with the DreamHack SC2 Mass this summer, where I think if you're a turn player and you're a heavy favorite over a Zerg, all you want to do is just basically get 20 Marines with Stim and +1 out. The moment you have that, basically for the Zerg, it becomes a lot harder to kill you, and they're going to have to outplay you. But they can't really outplay you, right, if you're way better than your opponent. So this just makes a lot of sense to me. It doesn't make too much sense to do something flashy or do something weird, like opening up with Reapers where you potentially delay Stim Marines. In the end of the day, if you're the superior player, you can get Stim Marines out. You can make magic happen with these guys and their guns.
Oh yeah, you can always, yeah, exactly right. You can always make something happen with these guys. That's I think that's the big appeal, right? With a lot of the bio plays, is these two medevacs make their way to the main. Slowed down a little bit on entry, wants to keep the boost for the escape. Does it make sense? Still get very slowed down,
you know,
by those zones.
If this was Raynor against Clem, I think most Terran players out there would not be loving Clem's position. They'd be like, oof, you know, you're down 9 workers, your third command center is a little bit late, Spire is already close to finishing up. So the build orders have truly worked out for JimRising, because SpeCial obviously a bit paranoid after what happened in Game 1 and Game 2. And wasn't exactly sure what he was going up against. So build order-wise, everything is going according to plan for JimRising. But my initial statement still stands. Once a good Terran player has Marines with Stims out, well, you kind of just need to outplay them. You need to take a couple of good fights, and you need to find a couple little victories here and there. And those victories are not easy to get against Marines with Stim.
Absolutely not. And this creep spread's not like super far pushed out either. Baneling speed's not ready. Does have the mutas here. Tries to split and micro the Marines at the front. The Marines in the back show up and clean out most of the Zerglings. So he just got a handful of Banes against split Marines. Well, he's got to make sure they stay split, and he does. Beautiful micro here out of SpeCial. The Banelings are not really able to get that juicy connection they're looking for. And I think we all know that if this game turns into Mutalisks fighting Marines, SpeCial's going to win real quick. Like good focus fire on the Banes, gets rid of all of them. And the Queens are coming up to try and help push these medevacs away while the Marines still fight against the mutas, but the next wave of reinforcements is here to help. And it looks like JimRising is actually going to be able to stop this attack, Kev.
Yep, really not all
forward.
And not all that bad. Get another medevac. Maybe we can pick up that mine too after it just detonates on a single Zergling. And JimRising doesn't have any Evo chambers. He doesn't have any upgrades. But what he does have is still a few more workers. And he's got a bunch of mutas flying around. I'd love to see him go up to 4 bases now. Instead, I feel like he wants to make magic happen with these Lings and mutas. I don't think we can get that eBay. That seems a little too ambitious. Jim is actually in a really good spot. But can he close it out from here on?
Yeah, that's the big question. The Marines being forced to run all over the place, trying to catch these Mutalisks. And it seems that Jim has been able to create the environment that he was looking for, right? He just wanted to get these Mutalisks out in a large enough number that he could try to pin SpeCial back. And SpeCial just on 2 bases, this is not a position that you really want to be in at all.
Nope, the muta count is so high. We've got more Mutalisk out than we have Marines out. That's normally disastrous, and obviously it is disastrous for SpeCial. But economically, he's not that far behind, especially not if he's able to saturate this third mineral line. This is going to be fun, though. Let's see if JimRising can find a few more openings. There's only a single turret in the main. Like these mutas, I want to see them go to the main mineral line. There are no Marines left in the main base, and 1 turret should not stand a chance against the 20 mutas that will soon have +1 flyer attacks. Nathanius, is it happening?
JimRising trying to make his memes no longer dreams, Roddy. Gets all of the Marines inside of the main base. The Lings and Banes headed towards the third. Am I watching Raynor, Kev? What is going on? That command center is beat to a pulp, and it is dead. Blown up in the sky. Grabs another medevac on the way out, and more Lings continue to rush forward with these Banelings. JimRising trying to close this out, but good number of Marines coming out from SpeCial. This is where that Mutalisk count is starting to get trimmed a little bit.
But the Marine count is also dwindling at a very rapid pace, and it's obviously only double orbital, so the economy isn't really there for SpeCial anymore. We don't have any safety turrets. The mutas are getting on top of the Marines. JimRising is about to take the 2-1 lead. We don't have any Evo chambers, but who gives a damn? SpeCial barely has any units. The floodgates are open. And Jim does it. What the hell?
I'm at a loss for words here, Kev. JimRising has apparently, Kev, sometimes when you take a little bit more of a chill, casual approach to what you're doing, that unlocks. I don't know. He opened the final chakra gate, I guess, perhaps, that he's been holding back the whole time, Rock Lee style. But JimRising's up 2-1 over SpeCial.
Everything is working out. Everything is working out. Like SpeCial scouting, obviously at one point he's like, what the hell is happening? Reaper goes out. That's where Jim goes up to 3 bases, gets a pretty greedy Spire. But since SpeCial was playing it a bit safe, he was paranoid. By the time that Juanito truly started pushing, we had barely enough Marines. We had a couple of Banelings. And at first it didn't look that promising, but then the Speed Banes found a couple of good connections. And the Muda count got so high early on, and he actually took a good fight. And once you take a good fight, you can chase down all the Metavacs. This is actually insane, Nate. Once again, these guys have played 26 series against each other before this. The score is 25-1 in favor of SpeCial, and the only series that JimRising ever won was a best of 1 in the lower bracket of an online tournament. Not very meaningful. That's over 5 years ago. He now has 2 chances to do something that he's never done before, and that is beat SpeCial in a best of 3 or in a best of 5. After 10 years of battling it out with each other, that'd really be quite something.
We have another 1.4 million channel points are going to get redistributed here as well. People in the chat losing their minds. The audience cannot believe it. But some folks who are putting their faith into JimRising are feeling good today. You're going to have a fantastic Friday. Okay, at this point, all right. Yeah, I don't even know. I don't even know what to say, but you're exactly right, Kev. It's that everything is just going perfectly right for JimRising. The environment is working. I mean, SpeCial's build just did not have the punch that it needed. He didn't really give himself the stability to deal with that counterattack, and he baited SpeCial into overextending off of that. He got all those lings, he got most of the Banelings, and SpeCial's like, okay, this is where I just end it, right? But it's exactly that kind of move that opens the door for the big comeback and a big upset so far. We're going to go into the next game with JimRising leading the series 2-1.
What's really interesting about the previous game is that at first Jim is very greedy, but then he wasn't greedy at all. He's basically getting ready to all in SpeCial. But SpeCial's like, oh no, he was greedy before. I'm gonna apply some pressure. And JimRising just stopped at 54 drones. This was not a Zerg who went up to 70 drones and 4 bases or 5 bases. No, it was 54 drones, no Evo chambers, just pure units. And that is what allowed JimRising to win that fight against the Marines on the edge of creep, and allows him to take the 2-1 lead. Are we about to witness something that has never happened before in the history of StarCraft 2? And that is this man defeat his opponent in a series that's longer than a best of 1. In the top right side, 2-1 up, it's JimRising. I can't believe it.
Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. His opponent in the southwest position, we have the Red Terran here, playing for Exxon Esports. He is SpeCial.
And now JimRising is the one scouting around with a drone. Normally people scout with drones when they are the favorite, and it's like, I just want to make sure my opponent doesn't 2-rex me or anything wild like that. So we're sacrificing some minerals, but yeah, at least, you know, it's not happening. He knows it's not happening. We're still going hedge first in the end. I think it's bizarre that we now live in a world where JimRising is drone scouting for 2-rexes against SpeCial.
Really says everything about how he must be feeling right now, too. He recognizes that he's ahead, and there's got to be some nerves that come into play there. When you get into these kinds of weird positions, you know, sometimes, Kev, the pressure feels a little bit less when you're an underdog, you know? Nobody's expecting anything of you. Everybody's already made their jokes and their memes. Everybody already predicted Juanito to win 3-0. But now you're up 2-1. This is the most important moment here for Jim, because he just needs to win 1 of 2 games now to take this series, and as you said, change StarCraft and esports history forever. I mean, can he handle that pressure?
It's actually a really big moment for him. He's been playing against SpeCial for over 10 years, and he has never won anything more than a best of 1, 25-1 in series, and the series he won wasn't even really a series because it was just a single map. This would be a big moment to do it. Of course, it's a guaranteed pay jump. If JimRising wins here, he obviously secures top 3 in the tournament. It'd be bad news for Eric, because Eric probably wants to play against JimRising, at least in the lower bracket. It would give him a min cash, I think, of $2,000. That's what you get for top 3 in the tourney. So a very, very big moment for JimRising. And let's see if he can get the job done. I'm sure that SpeCial is pissed. We saw him spamming go in the lobby in all caps lock. That's when you know players are fired up and they just want to get back to playing StarCraft. SpeCial's probably wondering what the hell is happening here.
Start the game, start the game. Well, got that drone low, was not able to get it.
We're gonna all in. Roach 1, this time with Zergling speed. Now, in the first game, we also opened up with 7 roaches, but that was just a couple of roaches to pressure, kind of like Eric did it too in some of the previous days. This time, we've got roaches and Zergling speed, so it's safe to say that JimRising is putting all his eggs in one basket, and he just wants to end this.
Yeah, I don't mind this play at all. I think this is a totally fine thing to do, because SpeCial is still focused on trying to play a normal game, right, rather than necessarily playing versus opponent. And look at this second gas very early in the natural. He didn't take that second gas in his main, actually, so never mind. That doesn't really mean much of anything. But he has that really fast third. He's building Hellions. He doesn't really have any capacity to set up against this at all, other than starting a Banshee. But that's what the Lings are for. If the Roaches and Ravagers bust open the front, the Lings will kill everything, because one Banshee can't deal with a million Lings.
All right, SpeCial has now scouted all the roaches with his Reaper, so he knows that they're coming. I still like that you mentioned the refinery in the natural, Donate, because if the Zerglings and roaches do take control of the natural, then SpeCial has only income from one refinery, right? Because he doesn't have the second refinery in his main base yet. So this could absolutely work against SpeCial. And he's gonna have to buy some time for this Banshee to come out. The Hellion control is gonna have to be absolutely top-notch. The bunker is going to buy some time, but it's not going to buy you all the time, because there isn't that much firepower on the side of the Terran. I mean, if it's ever going to happen, Nate, I think it's going to happen right here, right now.
Yeah, this has to be it. That bunker getting surrounded by the Zerglings, keeping the Hellions alive is also incredibly important, because it will mostly be Lings coming through. But you're right, that door is open. The Roaches are getting inside the base of SpeCial, right over towards where that mineral line is, and we see that Banshee's doing everything that he can, but it takes about 6 or 7 hits to kill one Roach. There are plenty of those. The SCVs are off fighting in fisticuffs. But let's not forget, Kev, there is a third orbital command here. If SpeCial is able to hold on, that economy is going to bounce back real quick. The worker count is just about evened out now. JimRising starting to take a lead as the Roaches get cleaned up, but the Hellions are still alive to stop the Zergling reinforcements from getting that killing decisive strike. So at the end of the day here, JimRising gets a good bit of work done. But I think having that third orbital really this fast is going to make the effects of this attack not quite as impactful as the previous game.
No, he was spot on there, Nate. Like, it looked promising, and I believe, I'll admit, I believed for 0.1 second. I was like, is this actually happening? If he kills 25 SUVs, then there is a chance that he can just run away with this game. But the amount of SUVs that went down in the end, this is simply not good enough. There is a Banshee with Cloak now showing up in the natural off JimRising. The Spore Crawler isn't done yet, and JimRising is in a world of trouble, and I think he knows it. It's only 2 hatcheries as well on the side of the Zerg. It's not even that we have triple hatch. SpeCial has pretty much won this one already, unless something very weird happens. And to be fair, a lot of weird things have happened so far in Latin America, so maybe we shouldn't call it yet, but normally this is game over.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of moves left, I think, that you can make when you're being pinned down by the Banshees, mostly because there's no mobile anti-air, right? You just have Queens for Zerg until you're onto that lair tech, so he can't really push out super hard because he didn't have a lot of Queens, because it was more about the units. And at the same time, he can't take the third base because, as we said, he has no way to really push out. So he can't protect it. And that just allows SpeCial to continue to escalate his economic advantage over our Zerg player here. But it definitely was a really good attack. I think for JimRising, I think if you were going to try to all in somebody and win the game in one move, that was definitely one of the stronger ones that you could make. And a lot of people lose to that type of build all the time.
Yep. I didn't hate it, and I didn't even hate the execution. I just think that SpeCial did a great job in defending it. The Hellion positioning was beautiful. Didn't let them get surrounded. He brought them to the SCVs, and then the Roaches kind of have to choose. Do they want to go for SCVs, or do they want to go for the Hellions? But whatever it is, there is plenty of DPS. The target fire of the Banshee is also important. You want to make sure you don't waste too many Banshee shots on the Zerglings, because you need to take care of the Roaches. And it just seems that SpeCial handled it very well. Stayed calm, and it's not easy to stay calm when you're down 1-2 in a series that you never expected to be down 1-2 in. Jim is going to try to get a Spire. Well, he went up to 3 bases now, and I guess he will get this base up and running eventually. But, you know, if you compare it to the previous game, Nate, we're not going to have nearly as many Mutas. And on top of that, Stim is already done on the Marines.
Yeah, and look at this. The Banshees see the Spire, too. It's so early in the building process. This is an easy cancel. Super easy cancel, yeah. Spire does not gain health very quickly because that build time is so long. In this third base under attack, Marines are just going to fight against these Lings here with the Medivacs. Half of them get cleaned up.
I was actually a bit sloppy there by SpeCial. I think if he would have just fought and he would have ran a little bit or put them into a corner, he would have been fine. And if he would have just picked them up, he also would have been fine. Instead, it seemed like he misclicked, so he actually lost 5 with 6 Marines. But no biggie, SpeCial is still incredibly far ahead, super far ahead economically, and he actually has the bigger army too, and the better army.
His next wave's coming. I'm not sure about this one. Yeah, the next wave of reinforcements is coming in over here for SpeCial. He's got a siege tank with this as well. Hellions are going to soak up some of these Banes, and that's going to do it. GG SpeCial ties the series up 2-2. And Roddy, this is it. It's final destination, no items, no platforms.
Come on, Pokeballs, please, Nate. Pokemon.
And both of them got to play Falco now. This is it, okay? To decide who's going to win this this fated battle of men, and we'll find out after this break. We'll be right back. You're watching the DreamHack Masters. Welcome back once again. It's the show that you've all been waiting for, guys, here at the DreamHack Masters Summer. It's time for game number 5 between SpeCial and JimRising. That's right, these two titans have been going at it in 4 long, hard games in a row, and now only one of them can emerge victorious from their final bout. Let us begin, Roddy. Let us begin.
I don't know if they were very long, Nate, but let's see if game 5 is going to be long or not. In the top left side of Lightshade, we're looking at the main base of our Mexican Terran. He managed to tie things up in game 4. It is SpeCial.
And his opponent, the Titan of the Latin American Zergs, coming in today, standing up against the tyrannous Terrans. He is JimRising.
You know, I just double checked, and I obviously didn't think that it happened, but this is the 7th best of 5 that these two have ever played against each other historically, and Jim has never been able to win 2 maps in a single best of 5. So there was already a little bit of esports history made for JimRising. But I'm sure that he doesn't give a damn about it. He's so close to winning at least $600 more in this tournament, and obviously picking up extra EPT points too. I mean, I'm sure that he didn't really think in the beginning of the year that EPT points were going to be important for him. But if he gets an amazing run in this tourney, maybe we should start dreaming about the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice, Nate. Who knows?
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? I mean, this can be, as we love to say, it's the beginning. It's the beginning of the new season. We're getting into all of our DreamHack Masters events, all the ESL Pro Tour events, all those points that are going to be coming in. I mean, we're talking about motivation for competition. Kev, how do you do better with the news that we got today? We're going to be having more awesome media pieces, tons more money to be made every week for all these guys that are duking it out in the online cups. You can't ask for a whole lot more than that. And maybe this is exactly the kind of catalyst that JimRising needs to make this one of his best years performance-wise. Who knows? If he can take it to SpeCial, then perhaps he can take it to anybody else.
No, I mean, you make a valid point there, because Jim does very often participate in the American Pro Tour Weekly on the Monday evening for them. And he actually has quite often a decent run, but yeah, semifinals is just very, very hard to make. But quarterfinals, yeah, that's where you start dreaming a little more often. You're like, hey, I can actually finish in the money in these tournaments. All you got to do is win 1 or 2 series against people that have your skill level, and then you can actually make some money, which just feels a lot better than getting close but not actually going all the way. The Reaper takes a lot of damage, but it will live, as SpeCial is going back to triple command center openings, as he scouted that everything seems to be normal so far.
Nice. And there's the 3rd command center, boots up back home. He doesn't feel like he needs to do anything else with his money right now. And I guess the big question becomes if and or what type of strategy JimRising goes for. The if being predicated on whether it's aggressive or not, right? Is this going to be something big? Is he just going to start flooding out Lings and build a Bailiness and just go for it again? Are we going to have him try to play this one out? Because, hey, it's game number 5 and might as well leave it all on the table, all on the field, rather, I guess. Like a desk, I don't know. It's video games, right? Who knows? You can kind of say it whatever way you want.
All on the Lightshade. Let's go with that.
All on the Lightshade. There you go.
Now, I think that Jim is doing the same thing as he did on Blackburn, where he makes it seem at first that something weird is happening, but then he still goes up to 3 bases, and he just wants to get Mutas out from a very strong economy. We do have a couple of Zerglings sneaking into the natural, and the fact that this worked out is already something. A little bit of lost mining time. Can we grab a couple of SCVs? Yes, we get 2 of them. That's really not bad. Lost mining time and 2 SCVs. I think it's the exact same idea as Blackburn. There is one big issue though, Nate. This time SpeCial is not going for an uneconomic 2-base opening, but he's going for a much more economic 3-base opening. And then it's a little bit harder for the Mutas to find the damage that they found in the previous games.
I could not agree with you anymore. And you know, it's an interesting point, Kev, because you mentioned this in the other game. But in that little harass, it's not just the mineral mining time there. That's his 2nd geyser in the natural. He doesn't put both gases in the main, and I don't know if that's just because he doesn't want a scout. I don't know. If an overlord went in there, he would see the 3rd command center, which is 1 gas opening anyway. But he lost a bit of that. He delays a little bit of that tech scaling by having that natural gas pushed back, because it puts him on 1 refinery for about 20 seconds. So
Nate,
If we're looking for details, that's what I'm looking for.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
You can only answer with yes or no. Are we going to see evolution chambers in this game?
Probably not. No. I'll just say no. I think it would be fun. Based on the spine crawler in front of the natural and the lair timing, it kind of has to be Spire, right? Like who puts a spine in front of their natural and doesn't go Spire? Is a question I often ask myself. The answer is basically nobody.
Liberator shows up in the natural.
Out.
Yeah, I mean the spine just keeps you safer, and in case that these Hellions decided to morph into Hellbats, you make your life a little bit easy for yourself. That spine is actually getting a couple of hits off. Liberator has turned around and shown up in the third base instead, but JimRising still had 2 queens there. So Jim does survive, doesn't take too much damage from the Liberator, guns down the Reaper too, and there is our Spire. We have 48 drones out on the map, we're making 4 more. I don't think we're going to see an Evo Chamber either. I think it's just going to be Ling, Bane, Muda. But yeah, once more, guys, big difference between this game and the Blackburn game is that on Blackburn, SpeCial only had 2 orbitals to begin with, so his economy wasn't very good. This game, he went up to 3 bases immediately, so he's going to be able to produce way more battle units to deal with these Lings, Banes, and Mudas.
Yeah, I also think it's worth pointing out that he had just the 1 engineering bay in his natural wall on Blackburn, that he had +1, but he actually had that armor upgrade, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, it was delayed a little bit too. So his Marines weren't quite as strong as they could have been because, as we saw, he focused really hard on not getting Baneling busted again, which is what opened the door for everything else to happen in that game. There's the Innovation Depot.
I wonder what we're going to do with all the Zerglings at 9 o'clock. I wonder if he's already planning to morph those bad boys into Banelings. At first, Jim is going to have to defend against the double drop that's heading towards his side of the map. We have a couple Lings and we have a couple defensive Banelings. All right, Jim is going for the run by, and he actually kind of gets in there, surrounds a couple of Marines, but the Hellions were left at home. I mean, you can see that SpeCial is playing a very, very cautious game 5.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I'm sure he came into this series with the expectation that he was going to win, but now one mistake actually could cost him for him, what should be, we have a lower bracket, by the way, I think, so it's not but literally all be over, but you know what I mean. It would cost him that direct path to getting first place, 4,500, that I'm sure he's planning on winning first place, would be my guess. Absolutely,
and let's not forget that, I mean, even if he would drop to the lower bracket, he probably still makes it to the grand final overall. But then Kalazur, assuming that Kalazur is going to take care of business, would actually have a little advantage over SpeCial by winning the upper bracket, right? Because he would be the guy who comes out of the upper bracket, and that would mean that SpeCial would probably have to win more games than Kalazur does. And Kalazur is someone that you really can't underestimate. And with a lot of money on the line, you don't want to take that risk. That's why SpeCial is playing a very safe and cautious game 5, and things are looking really good. JimRising is, in a way, kind of all in, guys, and I know that sounds weird because we have a bunch of Midas flying around and a Zerg with 3 bases, but he's got no Evo Chambers. SpeCial already has 1-1. So JimRising needs to absolutely demolish this army and then immediately counterattack in a devastating manner and win the game. Oh,
yeah, that Widowmine dragged pretty good onto the rest of the army while some Lings run by towards the third. The Widowmine did grab a Bane, but the rest of the pile is going to split here. We are off creep, so it becomes a lot easier for SpeCial to get that mop-up done. But, not necessarily the worst attack, but I think what you just said is the most important thing to keep in mind is that this game is on a timer now, Kev, because, as you said, there are no evolution chambers. So when those Marines get +1, the Lings die in 1 less hit. And the Lings never make up for that because they don't get the Carapace upgrade. When the Marines get +1 armor, it takes 1 more Zergling hit to kill them. And if you're not getting melee, then you're never going to set that back to normal. So it's only going to get progressively harder and harder for JimRising to get any good trades in this game. So I think relying on the Mutas has to be the big play because they're the only thing that are going to scale in numbers enough to have an impact. But eventually the Zerglings, if you have 0-0 Zerglings fighting 2-2 Marines, they're almost worthless.
I mean, it's going to be a lot harder for the Mutas too. Of course, the Mutas are working on +1 flyer attacks. There are the Evo Chambers. JimRising believes.
Hog.
So he knows that he's not going to win the game with unupgraded Zerglings and Banelings anymore. And he's going to try to turn this into a macro game. And probably just buy a lot of time with the Mutas flying around. Like 21 Mutas is obviously a very serious number. But we can see that SpeCial is taking them very seriously. Multiple missile turrets in the main base. Plenty of Marines left behind too. It's going to be very hard for JimRising to stop the army of SpeCial if SpeCial ever wants to move out.
Some of those mutas flying a little bit close to danger. I think the ones that are being rallied over. And some of the weak ones work towards the front. Oh, those Marines are weak, but they're still Marines.
Yeah.
They're really good against mutas. They destroy them.
And they were obviously backed up by a turret, right? If there was no turret there, then you could say maybe just fight with your mutas. You're going to lose a couple, as JimRising is actually losing a few drones in the back of his natural 2 Widow Mines. Drilling Claws are done. We don't have that many Spore Crawlers or Overseers by the looks of things. We have 1 Spore Crawler in the main base and 1 Overseer that's going to make its way over towards the third. It's a little bit slow.
He scans and sees that hatchery in the northeast. Medevacs are heading towards the south. But the rest of the army is going to head up north too. And Mutalisks get chunked. I love the random mines. Nothing better than random Widow Mines on the map. Just killing stuff.
JimRising is kind of looking for a potential drop, but he couldn't find it. And now 60 Marines with +2 attack, +2 armor are going to show up in the main base. And this is going to be very problematic. We have a couple of Banelings making their way over though. And Banelings, even without upgrades, are pretty good on creep. Well, Jim should be able to clean this up.
Yeah, the Mutalist numbers are really nice. And he does have +1 on the mutas. So those medevacs are also very easily swatted down. That's a really good grab by JimRising. And that very northeast hatch is still up, by the way. So I don't know if he saw something that made him feel like he couldn't push it, or if he felt nervous about a counterattack after the medevacs were killed. But that was actually pretty well held there by JimRising.
I think that SpeCial expected that double drop to stay alive a little bit longer, and then he would be able to do more damage with that in case the JimRising would counterattack. But after losing your presence on the south side of the map, I guess he just wants to play it safe and at least wait until that 4th command center becomes a planetary fortress.
Yeah, that's got to be the most important thing. Let that planetary get up, because there's still opportunities to throw this game away. There's always a way to do it if you don't want to make sure that you're doing everything you're supposed to in a game of StarCraft. SCV's not even pulled to repair that immediately, so he cancels the planetary, and he's just going to give up on that and move it away. So this creates the opportunity if he can defend this attack, but that's still a pretty big if. There's a double medevac drop in the main, this huge army in the northeast, and 1-1 is still not done yet for JimRising.
That fight in the main base was so brutal, by the way. The Marines just killed 20 Zerglings without a single Marine falling. Eventually, the Banelings were going to show up, and that means that SpeCial is going to have to disengage. JimRising is finding some damage, and he's finding more and more SCVs. The biggest problem is, how on earth is he ever going to clean up the 69 Marines? I guess the answer is maybe Banelings and some friendly fire. Not the worst connections, Nate, but we needed a lot better than that.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's just what happens, man. Those upgrades are so important as well. And JimRising wanted to play a style where he'd be able to overrun his opponent earlier in the mid game by saying, okay, instead of building all those upgrades, instead of getting those evos early, I'm going to have more units and try to do it that way. But SpeCial has just too much to be stopped. And like you said, those Lings, they didn't end up accomplishing anything. He lost the Overseer. The Widow Mines are getting blowing up all the mutas. And that's it. GG.